Hello, 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 everybody. Welcome to another edition of Finding Calm in the Chaos. I'm Denise, and I'm hoarse again. Oh, my friends, what a freaking weekend. It's been a doozy. Um, we started out with hockey. That was a bummer game. You guys know I love my hockey. So this episode is it's kind of like, I have both shoes on today. I have a foot in uh, what sadness, and I also have a foot in almost kind of a revelation. Like, hey, um, I learned something really. It was an aha moment for sure, and it happened out of uh, sadness. So, for those of you who follow me on social media, you know that our little 15-year-old Shiba Inu dog Shika passed, and we sent her across the Rainbow Bridge. It was super difficult, even though we knew it was happening. Um, she progressively got worse, but within a couple days, she was not walking anymore. And Mr. Sith had to take her outside, and she couldn't even stand to eliminate. So that pretty much was the time. She gave us enough beautiful memories and all of that for us to, hold on any longer. So we paid for a vet service to come to our home. I highly suggest that. I didn't know how I would want that, but the fact that Sheikah got to sit on her favorite couch and just go so peacefully with everybody around her, just chilling, was more meaningful, I think, than taking them to the vet office. She hated the vet anyway, so there was that. And then, so because Buster is so reactive, we didn't want him to come down while the vet was here. And they were so worked well with that. We also didn't want him here while she passed because she did not like him, and that would not be peaceful for her. So we put him upstairs in his kennel, and then when she passed, it went very quickly. She was certainly ready. Um, and she came he we brought him down. The vet went outside, which I thought was beautiful. She's like, don't worry about it, I'll be outside in the car, don't worry about it. So she did. She went out, and we spent some time with Chica, and Buster came down. He really didn't pay any mind to it. He smelled her briefly. um, After the fact, he seems to be like, wow, I'm not, I could tell you a lot of tension has gone in the house because he's always wanting to play and she's always like not having it. Right. So, kind of like a Charlie Brown, Peppermint Patty relationship. Like, yeah, you can live in this house and we're cool and friends and all that. But, like she's just pretty rough around the edges. Um, so that went on. And as a result of that, you would think that that would be like nothing, right? So I had called my mom and asked if they wanted to come during the time they could. She called my sister, who we rescued Shika from. So um, she, we wound up getting her from my sister. Let's leave it at that. And what happened is that immediately I got a call from my sister, and my sister and I have a very like it's an interesting relationship. Let's just put it that way. We do not live the same lives on the same terms. Uh, I used to, but I just don't want to play that game anymore. It's too stressful to my body and to everything. So we agree to disagree on stuff, and we agree to not talk about certain stuff. And, for, Peter's sake or whatnot. Okay. So I'll leave it at that. Um, I'm trying to be very cautious around this because, in all honesty, this is one of the lessons that I learned is that the call I got, I thought was going to be oh my gosh, I can't believe she's finally passing, whatever. No, that turned into getting stuff for her. And then that turned into, I said no, because I don't borrow money to my family anymore. That's a whole nother topic. If you guys have been listening to the podcast, you understand that. But I was navigating a lot of feelings yesterday because I'm trying to hold it together for Pete and also trying to explain to him how, she's passing. We believe in God. She's on the other side of the Rainbow Bridge hanging out with like grandma and all the dogs before and Deepko and Auntie Nikki. And, it's, I'm making this like something that's not that death is not something to fear, right? It's if you are a believer of God, this is just given. We're given an earthly life that is going to end, and then we're going to God. We're going to heaven, all right? And so instead of that, I'm navigating that. Plus, my husband was very close to Shika. They were like little buddies before Buster came around. And so that was like, his little girl, and not saying that she wasn't mine, but like I had to navigate my feelings around. She was really choked up about this. Like I haven't heard him like actually weep like that since his grandparents died. So that's like how major that was for Mr. Sith as well. And so we're navigating all these feelings, and I get, can you get me a paw print? Now, I'm going to be really honest with everybody. We are on a tight budget and we are fixing our finances. And we've been doing this for 3 years. And I've talked about that. I've been using Ramit Sethi. Um, uh, you can look him up. He's on YouTube. He has a show on Netflix. We have his books. I listen to his podcast. And we have been very structurally doing that. And it's not that I don't understand why, as always, it was asking for something. So there's a history here. And we had to make arrangements to make sure that we had the money to cover this cost that was unexpected, right? Because we're paying down unexpected costs in the past and getting things all right financially, right? So that we can go on vacations and we can enjoy all the nice things. But we do that now under the premise of a very strict budget. We allot ourselves those dollars. And we've never done that in the past. I wasn't raised that way. I know some people are like, wait, what? What do you mean, Denise? Well, we didn't. And if you did not grow up with parents who set you up financially, your adult life financially is a shit show. Okay, mine was, Mr. Sitz was. And then we learned what we didn't like living that way and how we could change it. And Ramit Sethi's style of money works really well for us. He basically teaches you how to live your rich life with what you've got. And so we sat down and we did what our rich life looks like, and we did a conscious spending plan, and we figured out what we want to do. Are we still struggling on some days? Yeah, I wish I could do whatever, but allocating money to things that wasn't supposed to be there is not one of them. And that's something that I used to do easily in the past and slip into debt. And we're trying to get out of debt, right? We want to pay down all the credit cards. We don't want anything but a car and house note. That's it. And that's what we're striving for. Now, personally, that's really no one's business, right? You're like, Denise, why are you sharing all this with me? Like, duh, that's life. That's what people do. Because my family doesn't operate everybody on the same premise. It's sort of like it's hard to explain. And when you are in that dysfunctionalism of just life and money and drama, things don't look right. And this is kind of where the revelation comes in for me. Okay. So she tells me she wants to do that. And I said, we don't have it right now. And we're not, so people might disagree with this, but we are not someone that wants to retain something that's physical. Like I have her collar. I have tons of pictures. We have tons of memories. We got a paw print. I'm not saving ashes. Apparently, that was an issue for my sister, that I didn't want my dog's ashes. And it's because she considers the dog her still, even though she hasn't had it for 12, 13 and a half years. And it's this entitlement thing. And I love my sister, but I can't deal with this stuff anymore. And this was the kind of the revelation I had. And I'll explain that later, because a lot of this behavior and this going back and forth, I'm not saying I'm better than my sister. I used to exhibit these same behaviors as my sister until I realized, like, shit. And a lot of my family's like this. This isn't just my sister. Like, I don't have a relationship with pretty much anyone in my family outside of my parents, and that at a very bare minimum. If it starts going leaning towards the dysfunctional circle again, I got to step out because what they do is I have been understanding now that they don't understand me. They don't know me. They only know trauma response. So they only know me by my trauma responses. This is like huge, guys. I thought to myself, wow, like, because I didn't get mad at my sister. I'm I'm going to give a little trigger warning right now. So if you are not used to profanity or you're not used to family members who would speak a certain way to someone um, in a vicious and very cruel way, you probably do not want to listen to the text messages that I'm going to read because it's going to be very, very, and I'm going to go through them little by little and explain both sides like to the best of my, I guess, unbiased condition that I can do. You know what I'm saying? But I'm going to start going into that now so that you can explain why I kind of had this revelation about trauma response. So um, I have multiple sisters. I'm not going to say which one, but you know, it is what it is. There wound up being a hang up. I said that we didn't want to do it financially. What do you mean you're not keeping ashes? That turned into, and so there was just a hang up. And I'm like, okay, whatever. You know, I get hung up on it all the time. I don't really care. So then that immediately started uh, being followed by the text messages. Now my phone's being blown up. Now, mind you, we're putting my dog down. I'm homeschooling, navigating Peter's feelings and explaining the process and knowing that Mr. Sith is working from home and also having like a really rough day emotionally. So I'm going to start reading these text guys again. Trigger response. If you're not used to this kind of stuff, then you need to whatever. Okay. And my sister is entitled to her position. And I am not going to discount that this is how she feels in her world. I just want you guys to know that. That's the difference in how you look at these things. Does it make speaking to someone like this right? No. But I've been there and I've done that as well. So her first text to me was, you know what, you fucking ignorant bitch, 22 fucking dollars, you can't get me a paw print. I'll fucking send you the money. You're a rotten fucking nasty caring bitch. You're rotten in my fucking kids and I'm sick of you, okay? Your kid's a fucking bully. You're a fucking bully. I can't stand you, you rotten bitch. Okay, so I can tell you looking back at this really I just want you guys to know that I'm no longer upset about receiving this kind of stuff because I understand the pain and the misery of where it comes from. And maybe if you have something, a very um uh, uh, poisonous relationship with family members and you get this kind of stuff, that really when we remove our trauma response and you look at it more clearly on where they're coming from, because we were probably there, like myself, once, that you're this evil to people, it's because you're so unhappy with yourself. I don't under how, and some people are just cruel, and you can't change that about anybody. Does that make sense? So yes, this was over a $22. And now I want you to be like very reminiscent. We talked about the situation with my niece and how that happened over $13 brisket nachos. Do you see how it's these little tiny things that trigger when you are just not healed? And then the trauma response then feeds into that. And I didn't trauma response in this time. So it just kept coming and I wound up just blocking it so it wouldn't come anymore. Um, so then that went on to, um, and when she types or she voice types sometimes, so the words might not make any sense, and that's because the voice changed over and that kind of stuff. So the next text then came, quiet about $700, or I'm thinking she meant complaining, because you have to put your dog to sleep Do you want me to pay for it? Because it cost me $2,600 to buy her and I gave her to you. You know, you're just so fucking ridiculous sometimes. You blow $700 in a fucking day buying bullshit. I can't even believe that you even said some ignorant shit like that. I have all my dogs cremated. You won't even cremate her. I asked for a $22 paw print that I paid for it. I'll buy yours too. You're just fucking ignorant. And while you're talking about shit, why don't you pay me back the money that I fucking bothered you out of jail and do Page County, you fucking cunt? Yeah. So this is something else people do that are hurt and are narcissistic. And so this is still, so I don't really care if she listens to this. I don't think she does, because I don't think anybody really does in my family thinks anything I do is like serious, because it wasn't in the past, right? I was a joke at one point too, and I've changed my life. And that's very difficult for people when you move on. And we've talked about that too. And they don't want to move on either, right? So they're stuck. So they do whatever they can to pull you back. Now, it's interesting how I never once complained about how much it cost. But because I told her I was on a budget, to her, that meant that I didn't want to pay for it. And I just talked earlier and I will repeat it again. Ashes mean nothing to us because we feel that Shika's spirit went to heaven, and carrying around ashes just means nothing to us. And that's an individual perspective. It might be different for you, it might be the same for you as a listener. But to push back on someone that makes her almost better than me, that I'm uncaring because I don't want ashes, is just not okay. You know, it's also a trauma response. Telling me how much it costs. So this is very big in my family. Now, I don't know how much she paid for the dog. I wasn't there when she bought it. I didn't live with her. I didn't do anything with her. I just knew that when I met Carl, the dog was kenneled. She had two other dogs and some animals. They were all struggling. And we said, we'll take the dog off your hands and if that'll help. And that's what we did. Okay. So apparently now I should pay her back 2,600. Like I don't know what the insinuation was or what was the reason of telling me how much she paid for them. I mean, I know how much I paid for Buster. Does that mean like that that's what I want back from, like I don't understand. Do you know what I mean? And you can't make sense of this stuff. The fact that she feels that I can blow $700 in a day on bullshit, well, that's kind of my prerogative, right? And now that comes from broke mindset. Been there and done that too. I used to have such envy over friends that could pay for things and do stuff and I couldn't because we were living check to check and super broke and just in debt and you know, but when I look back and realize, you know what? They did things that were responsible. They work hard, they're saving their money, they've got a conscious spending plan, they're doing what's important to them. For me to be envious is lazy and also a broke mentality. And we didn't want that. So we decided to change the way we thought, go out and make more money, which is what Mr. Sith did. He brings in tons of money, and we appreciate and love him for that more than we are very blessed as a family. But it's this whole competition thing. Okay. The fact that she said that she would pay it and pay for mine too. Okay, well, we talked in the past also about how they're all struggling severely right now. Why I would even ask, I would not ask my family for money. I've not asked my family for money in many, many years at this point, at least three, because it's just not worth it because it always comes back on you. And then the final part of this was, when am I going to pay her back? I think when she said fucking bother, she meant bail out of jail. And I've talked openly on my podcast in the early days. If you're unaware, I think it's one of the first 4 episodes. I'm not really sure, but I talk about the fact that there was a time in my life when I had an addiction to alcohol. That is no excuse. I'm just telling you what the situation is. But I made decisions that were not okay, that were illegal. And so I went to jail for 90 days in a county jail. And I got out and I decided while I was in there that that was it. I needed to straighten my life out and stop bullshit. And because if I continued the cycle, I was just going to keep snowballing and rolling down the hill. And that snowball was going to get bigger and bigger and bigger. And I was going to wind up either dead or in more legal trouble because of a result of my actions. And other people don't deserve to have actions happen to them because I have an addiction that I won't control. And so my family um, will always and forever throw that in my face because I moved on from it and I made myself something from it. I made a family, I made a home, I made a life. And when you have people, it could be family, it could be friends, it could be whomever, okay? If you move on to a different level and they don't come with you, they will throw your lowest of lows at you to make sure that you keep staying. They want you to stay. They will hang on with a tether like no one's business. And you just have to move on and put on literally your God armor and just walk away. And that's what I did. So then the third text was, I've been real cool and quiet with you about how you treated niece here when she lived with me like crap, but she's a redheaded stepchild. Peter was nasty to her. Don't know when it was nice to my daughter was fucking, oh, the only person who was nice to my Carl was Mr. Sith. And I love him for that. But you're a fucking goody two shoes, fucking high and mighty. Bullshit. I'm fucking done with you, Denise. Absolutely ridiculous. I would have cashed out you fucking $500 right now. Cash apped me is what she meant. Fucking $500 right now. If that's all you're fucking worried about, you're a fucking jerk. Don't forget where you came from, bitch. You're a feeding fucking piece of shit. You just got lucky and married somebody who was smart, and yet you tricked him into fucking marrying you. Fuck you. Okay. So we all talked about my niece that was here. And it's interesting that my sister said that Mr. Sith was the only one that talked to her well when the niece, told me she didn't feel comfortable around Uncle Carl because she's just not a fan of guys. Okay. And then you guys all know what actually happened when my niece was here. And you can see how this passing of the torch of dysfunctionality is happening between generations. And that's what I've worked so hard to stop. What I also don't like is the fact that she will bring my son into this, her own nephew, who was 8 at the time, 9 now, because kids don't say stuff like that. And Peter is well, you guys all know Peter. I don't even have to defend that. I'm not even going to waste my breath doing that. I'm high and I'm mighty. She's going to Cash App me stuff. Well, number one, the fact that you're using Cash App kind of shows you where you're at financially. Number two, she's going to send me $500 right now. She currently is not living in a home that is her own. They have not for several months. I know they've struggled with purchasing food because my mother's told me. And so somehow she's going to Cash App me $500 now. Again, this has turned into a money thing for her and a personal thing about her. It's always her, her, her. When my dad was in his height of alcoholism, it was always him, him, him. When I was in the height of my alcoholism, it was always me, me, me. Poor me. Why would people do this to me? Why would my family do this to me? It was always somebody doing stuff to me. When in reality, when I took my finger pointing at everybody and I turned it around on myself, I was like, girl, you need to wake the hell up. Because the only way shit changes is if you change the shit circumstances you don't like. But no, mark my word, when you do that, my friends, this is the stuff that comes at you. And you got to be strong. You got to be solid in your faith in God. And you got to be solid in holding your boundaries. And my response to her was, I'm sorry you feel that way. I wish you the best always and pray for you daily. Block, block, call number. Because I'm not going back and forth in that. Because they want to pull me down. Because I have elevated myself away. I don't want to live in that trauma response. And why was there an issue? I'm an asshole to them. And I think I'm better to them. And that's not the case. Because when you dissect it down even further, we all grew up in the same dysfunctional family. But when you break free out of that circle, they don't recognize you. This is me. I simply am on a budget like most people. I talk about money that way now. I don't fear money. I'm not afraid of money. I don't hate money. Money is necessary to enjoy the things in life, to make memories, to give to people so that they could live a better life. Charity. This is the season for giving. I'm already doing my shoe boxes. You know, the Samaritan Purse stuff. But it is very interesting how that all broke down to they don't recognize me as Denise, the actual person. They only recognize my trauma responses to them. And when those responses aren't being responded on, meaning I'm not falling into that vicious circle anymore, then I'm a person they don't know. And it triggers this kind of vitriol in text messaging because that's what it is. And so that's what I wanted to leave you with, guys, today. A little lesson on just trauma responses and how people might relate to you differently is not on you. It means that you've grown and you're solid in your growth personally and in God and spiritually and all of that. So until next time, lead with kindness and lead on God. Bye.